Welcome,
Hmm.
welcome, welcome. And I was mentioning to those who are on the line a little bit early, but I really want to celebrate
Hmm.
everybody who has been showing up, whether it's been for 1 day, 2 day, 3, 4, or 5 days, but especially those of you who have been showing up relatively consistently and you've been engaging in the Facebook group and you're really taking a step forward towards creating this future that you can love, because part of it comes from your commitment, and that's what you're showing me. You are committed to yourself. So I just really want to acknowledge that. And I also want to acknowledge yesterday's, because I've gotten several feedback. Like, I wasn't sure how the concept of redefining success was hitting people, but I really want to acknowledge, because several people have said that it really made them think about things, and several people who are being impacted by kind of what's happening in this country said that it really boosted their morale and gave them like a sense of power and a sense of freedom, that they can work towards creating their future, and their life is not defined by their job, the job that they have or have had. So thank you for all of those who acknowledge that. And I just wanted to share it because, yes, when we redefine success, we are redefining who we are, right? So we're going to talk a little bit more today about who we are. So with that, let's go into our centering, and let's start by, since it is 6 o'clock, shaking it all off again, because this is a great little power practice for you guys to take on as you go. We're not going to be in the challenge next week. You won't have me to lead this, but you can lead yourself. And remember to shake the lower body too. And if the chair is wiggling, let it wiggle, shake itself too. Good. And then take your power stance, opening your heart, opening your hands to receive the wisdom, the guidance, the empowerment that comes from this universe that is always organized around our true success, not just our success, but our true success of health and happiness and fulfillment all in one. And then gently bringing your hands down to your heart. And as you connect with your heart, notice your breathing. Start to deepen your breath work, breathing. Deepen your inhalations, deepen your exhalations. And the next time you inhale, allow the breath to bathe the mind, the heart, down to the core. And allow yourself to like feel this breath like expand into the edges of your skin in your torso. And then as you exhale, shoot the energy down the legs, down through the soles of the feet, down to the center of the earth, where it can be composted and nourished and nurtured and fertilized to come back to you as something inspirational. And then take another deep breath in, once again, breathing down through the mind, the heart, the core, and extending this energy out to the edges of the room, connecting with life itself and the support that life always has for us. We never know why things happen or how they're going to get resolved. But when we believe that life is always working towards our good, we're able to see the opportunity, the possibilities, and step into being a creator of our own future. And then take one more deep breath in and allow it to wash over the mind, the heart, the core, and extend it out to me and to all the others on this call who are your supporters, creating a nice sacred container, sister circle of love and care, and connecting also to all those in your life, your greater field of support. Knowing that as you connect in, you can recognize that your destiny is already being created. You are already created for this destiny of health and vitality and happiness and true success. And so with that, breathing it all in, feeling yourself so interconnected, coming from this strong place of empowerment to be open to receive the wisdom of today and harmonizing our mind. And so with that, gently open your eyes. So imagining once again, since we were focusing on visioning, and we now have people who are doing vision boards and writing out their vision and having fun with it. Imagine this vision that I have for all of us, all of you, where as women, we are creating a world where we are leading from overflowing cups. These cups are overflowing with self-care and self-love and self-trust. And we are feeling healthy and happy. And we're stepping out, and creating and contributing our true impact into this world. The vision of the world where the women are the leaders. So, so from this vision, I'm just going to talk a little bit today. I am going to put up the PowerPoint slides. I do have some slides that I want to share with you that will set the framework for having another generative conversation. And this time it's going to be about what's in here, what's in our mind, right? So a reminder of the intention of this week so that we're all coming from the same context, this intention of the triple A's, where we are becoming aware of where we are and what are those key saboteurs to the health and happiness that you've been seeking. We've been taking simple actions, right? So we can start to release those saboteurs and begin to create this reality that we're destined to create. And we've also been learning how to kickstart a pathway that's an aligned pathway that can help us feel holistically integrated so that we have a structure, a container to create this future that we love. And this is supporting us in going from, when we're talking about roses, from being that rosebud to being the rose, right? From being the chrysalis, the caterpillar going through the chrysalis into the butterfly. Brilliant and yet imperfect, but still stepping into our creative element, right? So just a reminder of that. And I want to see if there's one thing else. Just a reminder also that every day we are stepping forward on this pathway. And I'll bring up the PowerPoint now so that those who are watching the recording will be able to see the pathway. Okay, let me do the slides. Share. Okay. All right. So now, can you see the first page? Okay. So very good. I'm going to go through a couple of slides. So I just wanted to remind you of the pathway, the framework. I kind of call it like my feminine power framework. And it is a holistic, integrative approach. And I just want to remind you of something I said the first day, that none of this is rocket science. And all of us are probably have made a good amount of progress in each of these areas. But what I found from my experience with myself and with working with other women is that when it's done in kind of a linear fashion or a haphazard fashion, you get some results, but there's a lot of backsliding, and especially when it comes to our health. But when we do this in a holistic systemic structure where each piece is integrated and is playing upon the other, then that's when you get the magic. And that's where we start to get the more sustainable, and irreversible results, especially when it comes to like things like health and happiness. So this is a framework that we're looking at, and it is a taste of redefining success. So raise your hand if, for today's purpose of harmonizing the mind, you do say things to yourself that you'd never want anybody to hear. Oh, Meta jumped her hand right up. Sue did. I know I do too, right? Especially early in the morning, if you could hear the thoughts in my head, you'd be like, what? Is that the same, Zana? Then I do my meditation, I do my centering, I do my yoga, then I'm good to face the world. So we all go through that. And what about if you do like the same things over and over and you cannot seem to get out of your way, right? Especially when you set a goal and it's something that is a little bit outside of your comfort zone, and then you find yourself slipping back into the same patterns, and you do it one day, maybe you have that cookie, and then the next day you have that cookie, and then the next day you say, oh, now I'm not going to have it. Okay, I'm going to be good until like 11 o'clock at night. And then you're like, okay, maybe I'll have a little bite. How many of you have had that kind of experience, right? Or you believe something that's not true, but you can't really shift that belief, right? A lot of us know that. Like Paula was mentioning on Tuesday when we were talking about health and vitality and healing the body, that for decades she had this feeling of being unworthy, right? And somewhere within herself, she knew that wasn't true, but it was hard for her to shift it. So if you got some of those things, today's the day that we're going to be addressing those things. So I'm going to set the framework for our discussion. And what I found is that when it comes to having a harmonized mind, there's two elements that need to be addressed. And one is what I call this vicious fear cycle. And right now in this country, there's a lot of this that's going on. There's a lot of fears. And when I was talking to a couple of people that I spoke to today about the impact of yesterday, you could hear there's a lot of fears about what's happening and what's their future going to be like, what their success path could be like, whether what they thought was going to be success will still exist at all. And though when we have fears, that tends to generate beliefs, right? It tends to generate certain thoughts that we think are concrete thoughts. And those thoughts always lead to other feelings. Sometimes they can be feelings of self-doubt, or like in Paula's case, so feelings of self-worthiness. And those feelings then lead to action. There's a manifestation concept, and it's like your thoughts generate your beliefs generate your feelings generate your actions, right? And this fear cycle is kind of a reflection of that, right? So monitoring where our fear is coming from and what the thoughts are that are kind of stemming from that fear is one way that we can start to bring a little bit more peace and calm to our mindset. And in my programs, we talk about this. And with the program that I shared with you yesterday, there's a lot built in there that's dealing with stress and the fear that can come from stress. The other is hidden barriers. And some people say that it's about beliefs and limiting beliefs. And you've probably heard, quite a bit out there about limiting beliefs these days. But it's actually deeper than that. It's really concepts of our self concepts, and it's going to the level of our identity. And this is what we're going to talk about more today. And it's the meaning that we make about who we are and what's possible for us. Like when I was mentioning the visioning, and I mentioned the concept of what would you love? And I highlighted the fact that many people, many women, when I say that, they will come back to me and they will say, I would like to do this. I would like to do this, right? We can't expand what's possible for us very easily. We do it by practicality, what we think is possible. So it's about the meanings that we're making about who we are, what's possible, what the expectations that we have of what is our destiny, what we're able to accomplish in the world, what we're able to accomplish at any given time. And these barriers, these thought processes, this sense of self, often they don't come from what's real and what's true, not even from what's logical. It's just the meaning that we drew from prior experience. So we all have heard some of this, and that, a lot of it comes from things that happened in our childhood, not necessarily bad things, just when we were young and our minds were forming, and there were events happening and words spoken to us, and we perceived things and we drew meanings that's the world, right? How many of you have done that? Yeah, like all of us, right? And does it just stay in our mind? Yep, Meta raised her hand. Does it just stay in our mind? Or is it kind of really running us, right? Is it like so much embedded in who we think we are and what we think about life and what we think about others, that it really is running our reality, right? And it's filtering everything that we believe and that we say and that we do. And it looks like some things are going on in the chat. Yeah, it's like motor running day and night. Some of this comes from our parents and from the dinner table. Yeah, we talked about this yesterday. Like, where do we get these concepts from about what it means to be a successful
What are you
woman?
doing with no jacket on?
And we have Elena who's joined. And so let's see, I'm going to try to meet everybody, and then you can unmute when you want to share something. So I'm just laying out the context that we have these things going on, and then we're going to talk about them and we're going to go through an exercise with it. So, let me move that out of my thing. So for us women, there's three main power blocks, and we call them power blocks because when we have these self-concepts, this identity, this way that we think about who we are and what's possible for us, it actually is blocking our ability to create what it is that we want, right? And I've learned that, from people who have been studying this, I mentioned one of my mentors, Claire Zammit, and she's been studying this work on women for like 25 years. And she says there's actually 26 like power blocks that she's actually identified. But most women kind of will all have these three interconnected. And shame is one of them. And shame comes from, I don't feel enough. I don't have enough. I can't do enough. I'm not good enough. All of that is kind of shame. And we kind of run into shaming ourselves, blaming ourselves. I was talking to one client today, and she wants to have better communication with her husband and her daughter who lives with her so they can have a more peaceful household. And the husband has a little Alzheimer's starting. And so she was interpreting his behavior as her not being good enough, right? She took it back to her. She made it all about her. And she was feeling a lot of shame that she wasn't more compassionate with him. Couldn't speak to him in a way he could hear. She was trying to be too controlling. And you could see the denigration that was happening within her, even as she was talking about it. So shame is a big one. And we're going to talk about like which of these you can identify with. So as I go through the list, you can kind of knock down notes, and we're going to talk about where is it showing up in your life and what does it look like? And lack, right? So a lot of times we think of lack and we do think, oh, if I don't have enough, then that's lack, or we're talking about money. But lack is when you kind of really feel disconnected, like you're feeling like this higher power, the universe, and all these things that we talk about, spirit, God, like it's not really there for us. It's something out there, but we're somewhat disconnected. And it doesn't have to do with our spirituality, but do we truly feel connected? Do we truly feel like there's something in this world that is fully supporting us, right? Isolation. I was feeling lack yesterday. I was feeling lack after the presentation yesterday. And I was like, wow, everybody looks so serious. And I know it was a more serious topic after we had fun discussion on Tuesday. And I was like, oh my God, blah, blah, I'm not good enough. And, but then I got the feedback of how impactful that was for people being able to kind of reframe their life. And isolation. How many successful women feel isolated, right? Like you've strived for success, you've done what was expected. Even within your family, you've kind of done what was expected, and then they see you out there as the lone ranger and you feel alone, you feel different, right? So these three heavily impact us. And the reason that this is a key part of the methodology for being able to tap into that power, that feminine power framework, to be able to create the reality, the future that you're looking, is because it's research backed. And research is showing that 80% of what we're creating comes from what's in our head. So whether we are trying to create health, vitality, happiness, and joy, a sense of freedom, fulfillment, prosperity, 80% of what we're actually able to do is coming from that self-concept, right? 20% actually comes from the efforts that were taken to do that. Right? So even if we're looking at, what's happening in this world today, not just our country, but the world today, if we're basing our reality on how we think about it, what kind of reality are we creating for yourself? And it's an epidemic for women. And on the next slide, I'm going to show you really more. But it's an epidemic for women because women tend to be meaning makers and men are not so much. Like men, when they fail, they've actually done research in like corporate America. And when men get fired, like what's their interpretation of that versus when a woman gets fired, or not even fired, but doesn't get the promotion or gets a scorecard or whatever, I forget what they call it now, the annual review. That's not as positive as they would like. And women make it mean something about them. They're not good enough. They feel shame. They feel embarrassment by it. Whereas men relate it more to just a pattern of behavior. Like, I didn't do this or I didn't do that. They're much more objective, right? And when we feel this way, it cuts us off from that most empowered creative self because we're it's our self-concept. We think this is who we are. We're not worthy. We are not enough. And so we can't even tap into that other part of us that knows and has created and has generated so many wonderful things in the world, we kind of forget about that part of her, right? I did that yesterday. But because I do this work, I'm able to recognize it, and then I'm able to go through the tools that I have to shift it pretty quickly, and I don't stay in that. So this morning when I woke up, I was like, I'm loving what I'm doing. I'm loving this challenge. It's making a difference. I'm putting a message out there. I'm creating a movement, a new feminine paradigm of success. And it's going to impact women's health and their happiness, right? And the other thing the research shows is that this depth of self-concept and how we identify with ourselves and how that is impacting what we're putting out in the world, that there's a gap, and it's not really being addressed by a lot of the traditional methods. Like psychotherapy, they may look at who we are, but it's more from the perspective of what has happened in the past, and can you reconcile what's happening in the past. This work is about what are we creating in the future, right? What can we recognize about who we are and use that as a launching pad to be pulled forward. Spirituality often saw that the spirituality, not all forms of spirituality, but many forms of spirituality have us believing that everything is out there, separate and apart from us, not inclusive. And even traditional coaching, it's based on a methodology that is very goal-oriented, linear, logical, concepts that come out of the masculine paradigm of success that was needed for, the industrialization age when we were building everything, and it's needed for this big corporate world, but it's not working for women. And how do we know? Because more and more women are on antidepressants, and more than 20% are on anxiolytics for anxiety. 75 to 95% have an unhealthy relationship with their body and food, right? That's a lot. That's like almost every woman has some unhealthy perception of their body. Oh, my thighs. Oh my God. My belly. Oh my God. My wrinkles, my gray hair, right? 50% of women are living alone. So that aloneness concept. 60% experience stress so bad that it impacts their sleep. And sleep disorders are number one cause of a lot of the chronic illness that we have. So when we were talking about heal the body, sleep was one of those 5 areas. And heart disease, it's been the number one killer of women since the 50s. And what happened in the 50s? That's when more and more women, as we went up Maslow's hierarchy of needs and we could take care of the family, we started working. We stepped into this masculine paradigm of success, as I call it, and we started working, but we worked under those expectations that we talked about yesterday, right? So yes, it affects, tying this in with the rest of the week, it affects all 7 of those areas of alignment. So when you said you wanted to go from a 7 to a 10, or 5 to a 10, or 3 to a 10, this whole level of self-concept is a key part of that. It affects those 5 areas of health that we talked about on Tuesday. All of them get impacted by our concept. And this is why I have built the mindset work and the self-concept work into this 12-week program. It used to be a program where we just dealt with stress, and we dealt with the body, so the nervous system and the body. And now it's built into it, working on these beliefs of self-concept that keep us from being able to stay consistent with the actions that we need to jumpstart our health and vitality and build that foundation. And it affects what we talked about yesterday, that definition of success. We talked a lot about how that comes from our self-concept, our identity, the beliefs that we generate. And I shared already how it's affected me in a couple of scenarios. But yes, the latest was just finding myself, shut down and my business being shut down because I did not feel worthy as an entrepreneur unless I was making the kind of money that I would have been making had I stayed an attorney, right? It was tied to money. My identity was tied to money. So there is a process for transformation. This is the process that is built into all my programs, whether you do the group program, whether you're doing the continuity membership, whether you're doing one-to-one work, we're always working at the level of self-concept. And then to help us embody a new self-concept, a new story about ourselves, we need to develop the skills, the habits, the patterns, the capacities to really embody it, right? To really make it a new way of being, a new way of knowing, a new lifestyle. And that's where the nutritional work that I do and the coaching work blend together to make a really powerful transformation container, I would say. So we're going to stop the PowerPoint and we're going to talk some. And so let me take this off so I can see everybody and you can see me. And I want to start with another centering. And I want to get us tapped into this empowered part of ourselves so that we can have a more open discussion about, what it is that you've been feeling is a power block for you. So get comfortable, close your eyes. Put everything aside. Once again, connecting to your breath and allowing your awareness to drop all the way down into your hips, into your legs, down into the soles of your feet, into the earth. And I want to invite you to connect with a place in your life where you show up with the most empathy and compassion and love and support. It might be for your children. It might be for your clients. It might be for a loved one or a partner. But see if you can step into that part of yourself where you feel and express the greatest love, the greatest kindness, wisdom, presence, listening, right? And allow this more loving, more mature part of you to come forward and to hold your vision, your desires, your yearnings in the areas of your health, your happiness, true success. Bring into this circle of loving kindness and empathy and listen. Presence, your gifts, your brilliance, that part of you that always shows up when you feel your most yourself, right? So we're stepping into that part of us that might show up when we're in nature or when we're writing, if we're writers, or when we're teaching yoga or qigong, if we're into the healing arts. So whatever that is for you, it might be out there when you're milking the cows. So I want to invite you to engage this entire process that we're about to embark in with this full body access to the most empowered you. Bring it fully here with this intention to utilize this love and this power to create greater awareness. What's kind of happening, what these hidden barriers are for you. So with that, we're going to open it up for our generative conversation. And you can write things in the chat. You can also come off mute. We can make this more, dialogue if you'd like. But I'd like to hear, like when we talk about health and vitality, since almost everybody here is interested in up-leveling their health and vitality to some level. And we talked about on Tuesday some of the challenges and the struggles that you've been having in this area. But I kind of want you to think a little deeper. And what are the patterns that tend to show up in this area of health and vitality for you? Like what shows up over and over again? That's a challenge that kind of keeps you from being able to achieve what it is that you truly want in that area. Could be weight loss that you're seeking, could be just, I want to be healthy. I just want to feel good. I want to feel like my old self again. Yeah, you can play. Yeah. So we have emotional eating, it's a challenge. Okay. We have food as a reward. I need to reward myself. Yes. Yeah. And what is the reward for, Paula? What I do does not amount to anything. So the reward is to comfort yourself because you're feeling what you do does not amount to anything. Yeah. Stress
But there's got to be something that's like, there's got to be some affirmation, and it's often food.
So food becomes your affirmation.
Right.
That's a good one.
Wow, how huge is that?
I mean, there's
Yeah.
got to be something that says like what I did mattered, and it's like, all right, well, I guess it'll be food again, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And so when that happens, tell me like exactly what happens. What actually happens when you decide that you want to reach for the food so that it's comfort?
Well, I live alone is one, and that's fine. It's good. It's fine. It's all right. But it's still like a little sore spot of like, why? That wasn't like what I intended. And then, I finished my day, everything's done, and it's like everybody else is gone from the office, and then I'm like on my way home, and it's like, oh well, all right, so what happened? So what? And then
Yeah.
drive home and then go to sleep and then do the same thing the next day.
Yeah, so the kind of the monotony of the days and this feeling of aloneness and isolation
Right.
is what drives you to feel like, okay, the food is my affirmation, is my one positive thing. Yeah, we do hear you. Yeah, Sue does. And you guys can speak if you want to speak up and, champion each other, or if you're feeling similar to a person. Yeah, this is our sacred circle here, and we're not recording at this time. So this is like for you, right? And thank you for that. So, yeah. Right. So, and how often does this pattern happen? Yep, Maida? Yeah. You want to raise something? Yep, there you
Because I
go.
said, what I do does not amount to anything. And I'm sort of feeling in that frame of mind. And I know it's not true. I don't know you, Paula, but I know it's not true for you either. And the reason I know it's not true because we do matter and what we do matters. Whether we even smile at another person or just kind or whatever we do to help ourselves and someone else, it makes a difference. But you do get that feeling sometime from the world that if it doesn't make that match in brilliancy or celebration or someone recognize it, that somehow it doesn't matter. But it
Yeah.
does. Some of the most important things probably that we do are things that we don't get awards for, but they make a difference.
Right, right. Wow. Thank you for
Yeah.
sharing that, Meta. I mean, that is huge. Like, how many of you feel sometimes like you don't matter or what you do doesn't really make a difference, right? Unless we get some big kind of acknowledgement, yeah, we feel small, and often what can happen when we feel like we don't matter, we play small, right? We play in a smaller context than we really feel like we want to play in, right? Right? Yeah.
Sometimes I get like excited about something I did well, like at work, for instance, and like I'll tell my supervisor, and I feel like sometimes it's undermined. So then I'm like, oh, if I do something good, I shouldn't say anything, you know?
Ah, so say that again, Jennifer. You will do something or say something and somebody else will undermine you?
Yeah, so like I'll be like, oh, I did this and I did it well, and then I'm looking for like positive affirmation, and I'll get undermined, and then
Yes.
I'm just like, oh, maybe I shouldn't say anything, you know?
Yes, yes, yes. Yeah, we're looking for validation of a job well done, and we're looking for the validation outside of us, right? Because we have a concept of ourselves that at this point we haven't been able to connect into that part of us that can give ourselves our own internal validation. So we look for the validation from others, which we all do. I found myself in that. We look for validation coming from food, like food as our affirmation. That's a very interesting concept there, right? Yeah, and where else have you kind of been getting stuck with being able to make the shifts? Ah, and the other issue is feeling like others. Paula, do you want to share that?
Yeah, so sometimes you feel like the world is acting on you, like licensing, regulators, employees moving on, coworkers being difficult, things getting impossible and too much, or parents getting ill, or kids getting ill, or whatever. And you just feel this overwhelming sense of, can I continue to manage, juggle, balance, do it, get it done? And it's like overwhelming. Like,
Mhm.
am I gonna like cave at some point?
Yeah, yeah. We feel
Like,
that
will the things show up that I cannot actually get done?
yeah, yeah, yeah. We feel like we have so many things coming at us and
Right.
we're responsible for, and it's the never-ending list. And we wonder, are we enough to be able to handle that? Right?
Mm.
Are we enough to be able to handle that? Yeah. And that is reflective of a lot of what we said, those expectations that as women, we should be able to bring home the bacon and fry it up in the pan, right? It's that little jingo.
Right.
We should be able to do all of that, those cultural expectations deeply embedded in us. Yeah. So when we feel this way, so then what happens? So we are feeling, like overwhelmed. We're feeling like we're not being validated. And we come home and then what?
I
Yeah, Sue.
I feel when I've had a crazy day, spent all of my energy inside of me, am exhausted, don't really have the energy to cook something healthy, if I even have the food in the fridge. I feel
Mhm.
kind of lonely. I just feel disconnected when I come home
Disconnected.
after all that. Yeah.
Yeah, and is it coming home to like just an empty house that makes you feel the lonely, or is it even if
I'm
people are there, you
actually
feel?
okay with that.
Ah,
Yeah,
mhm.
it would be better if I did have my life partner, but I don't feel lonely about being alone in the house. It's when I haven't nourished and nurtured myself that I feel
Ah,
yeah.
okay. So when you haven't nourished yourself
Yeah,
and your own self-care, then
right.
you feel lonely,
Yeah,
and that makes you reach for food for the comfort.
right. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I get that. I get that. Anybody else feel that way? Yeah. Panicky, uncomfortable, feeling like I'm missing out on life. Yeah. So that's a little different. So what happens there, Paula?
I just get an overwhelming sense of uncomfortable, like there's something I have to do, there's something I missed, I don't get it, like I'm not getting life. I didn't have the stuff in my fridge. I just
Mm,
get this like panicky, what did I miss?
mm.
Or like, what did I miss again?
What did I miss, right? Like I'm not doing enough. I'm not out there enough.
Yeah, or
Oh,
I'm just not getting it. I don't get it.
right,
I don't
right,
get it.
right. Yeah. And so you're getting triggered by these concepts, right? These concepts of yourself, whether it's the aloneness or I'm not doing enough or there's too much happening in life. And these triggers happen. And then in terms of the facts, like what do you do? Like, do you just reach for the cookies and you have one? Or is it like you have one and then you're going back half an hour later and you're having more and then you're looking in the freezer to see where the ice cream is and then you're
Yes. Yes.
yeah, yeah. And it's kind of important just to see the facts of like what we do. And then without, putting any judgment on it. And then what happens? So when we eat that way, then what happens? And we're just again trying to get a picture of what happens. No right, no wrong.
I feel worse.
Feel worse? Hmm. Yeah. In terms of what, emotional or physical or
Both really, because if I come home after I'm tired and have a long day and I start eating junk food, like my body doesn't feel good. And then like I feel shame and guilt because I ate that way. So
yeah, yeah. So physically, you actually feel it in the body, like your stomach, and things start to bloat. And yeah, and then what does it do to your energy? It zaps your energy. You notice that. Yeah. And what about sleep? What does it do to your sleep?
Don't sleep well.
You don't sleep well. Yeah, 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 yeah. And then what does that do to our day the next day, or ability to function the next day? Yeah, I see those thumbs, the thumbs from Meta are going up and down and up
I
and
know.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So the pattern that I'm kind of seeing and getting a picture of is like it's like a vicious circle, right? Where we feel a certain way and then we eat a certain way and then we feel a certain way the next day as a result of it. Would you guys see, do you see any patterns like that happen in your lives? And again, this is all just exploration of what kind of really happens because a lot of times we go through this mindlessly. Yeah. And Rose, do you have experience with this, or do you have different things that affect your health and vitality, or that cause you to be stuck in any way? Because we don't all have the same.
Well, I don't know. As you know, I mean, my lifestyle now is very, very different, and I'm not from the US. So the pressures that I felt when I was in a professor in a university were very, very different to what I'm hearing happens in corporate America, and probably happens also in corporate UK, but I don't know. So no, I'm very slow to think of my answers to these things because my life is so different, and I'm still trying to work out not so much who I am, but yeah, where I feel best. I mean, I'm loving being in this particular house with a few other people. I'm completely separate, but sharing the kitchen, and but I'm also doing this call in my bedroom, you know. and yeah, so I'm finding it very interesting. There's so much to think about now, which is why I was interested in the replays. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
there is. Yeah, because for you, like you are truly on this path of self-actualization.
mm,
You have
mm,
determined that there is a potential that you want to live into you for your life, and an
mm,
expansive potential, right?
yeah.
And so, yeah, so even on that, it's looking for like where, as I'm stepping towards creating this vision that's bringing me more happiness and more joy and more vitality, like
Mm,
where do I block myself? Right? Where do I block myself? Where do I
mm,
maybe not think as expansively as I might?
mm.
Like I might think I want to go live in Bora Bora for a year. But I tell myself, no, why would I do that at my age? Right?
Oh no, I
Like,
don't have any of those feelings. I'm going to have to live to 150 or something like that because I intend to visit every country in the world, many of which I've already been to, but briefly. Oh yes.
yes, yes, like
No
those
question.
are the women.
And these countries are all welcoming to me. Yes,
Wow.
I feel very welcome wherever I am. I mean, I know I have good energy, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, you have
And
wonderful energy.
I'm interesting to people because I'm so different, which I find fascinating. I mean, I'm blessed, truly blessed.
Yes, yes, you are. You are.
Yeah.
So, for you, you may be on the higher spectrum,
Mm,
right?
mm,
But as you think about, what kind of self-concepts that you do have,
mm,
that if you had a more empowered relationship with that, you could
mm.
do even more, right?
Yes, yes. Well, one of the I'm at the moment still working on creating some courses based on the work that I did for 20 years in universities.
Ah,
I've written a chapter for a coach's transfer book of about a personal transformation as a life coach, and that's
yeah.
going to be a #1 Amazon bestseller. So that's what
Oh, I
I will
love
be
that. I love
when
that.
it eventually gets published. And then I've also decided to, and it's something that it's all very new to me, but the idea, it was suggested that what I tried to do was to teach, to coach women like me who want to do what I'm doing. And
Mhm.
so like now I'm working with women rocking business, and I'm trying to create a webinar
Very good, very good.
to encourage them to come on my course. And
Ah,
so there are a lot of things happening all at the same time that are really quite hard to juggle, but it's fine. It's absolutely fine.
yeah, yeah. So for you, it may be about the concept that you can handle all of this, all of the
Yeah.
wonderful
Well,
things
I
that.
can. I am doing so, yes.
And you may be one of the women that I feature in my book, where I'm going to be writing about what's right in the world and featuring women who are out there, change makers, making a difference in the
Oh, yes.
world,
Yes.
and doing even more because they focus on their self-care and
Mm,
prioritizing their own
mm,
well-being.
yeah. Mm.
So beautiful. So I love that. And Sonia says that you could come and visit her and teach you how to make some real English biscuits and scones, and you could
I
live on
can't.
a farm.
It's one thing I can't do. I'd have to get the recipe book out. But
Yeah.
thank you, Sonia. Thank you.
So I wanted to kind of take this a little bit more before we close today, because this is just opening inquiry. What's the story that you tell yourself about these patterns, right? So we've talked about a lot of patterns. And then there's an inquiry, and you won't have answers for all of this today. This is a lot of the work that I'll be doing with you in the program, but I kind of want you to get you thinking about this. Like, what's the story that you tell yourself about who you are? Like Paula's already kind of said it about her, her worthiness, and she doesn't feel good enough and that type of thing, right? Yeah, Mary?
Thank you so much. I've got to go because I have to use the bathroom before my thing starts at the top of the
You
hour.
got another thing. So welcome. Thank you for being here.
Talk
will
about
be
self-care.
talking to
Thank you all.
Yes, I will be
Tomorrow.
talking to you. Take care.
Thank you.
But yeah, what is that story that you've been telling yourself? Hmm?
I think I tell myself a lot of the time, like I'm a fuck up, excuse my language, but like I already messed up, so why try again? You know what I mean? So like if I go back to an old pattern,
Mm.
like it's an all or nothing thinking. Like either I'm all in or I'm all out. And usually I'm all out. So
Yeah, all or nothing. I'm all out, right? Now I almost heard something like it's a harsh way of looking at it, but I'm a failure. I'm always all out, right? I'm more all
yeah,
out than I am in, right? We tell ourselves
yeah.
things, these words in our head, right? But what's more true about that, Jennifer? Are you really a failure? No. Are you
It's
really
like
all out?
it's like what you're saying, like it's a belief. Like I know I'm not a failure, but it's hard not to believe that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, 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 yeah. What's more true? And when you really think about it, let me stay with you for a little bit. But when you're saying you're a failure, and you know in your heart you're not really a failure, but what's more true about the behavior?
Um, what do you mean?
Like, is it just more true that you just have chosen to eat a little bit more? It's not that you're a failure, but
Yeah, I think it's the fact that I choose to like eat badly and then like I'm proving myself right that I'm a failure. And I think that's where the belief comes from is like I just keep proving myself right.
yeah, yeah. And that's a vital thing that she just said, is that we undertake actions that prove ourselves right in this belief, this limited negative belief that we're having about ourselves. We do things like I called it the saboteurs. Like we do things that then generate evidence of us being this concept that we have for ourselves. Like even for my case, okay, I'm not enough. Sometimes I feel that I'm not enough. I'm not good enough. I don't know enough, blah, 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 for this entrepreneurial world. And I got this vision to make this big difference, but I don't know how to do this X, Y, and Z technology thing. So I will try to avoid doing this X, Y, and Z thing. And then it's like the last minute, and then I don't have time. So I don't have enough time. And I've just created like a self-reinforcing cycle of, yes, you're not enough, Zana, because you waited till the last minute and then tried to cram it in, and you didn't have enough time and you didn't get enough done. And yes, that made you feel like it. So sometimes our behaviors are actually reinforcing this belief that we have about ourselves, right? So one of the things that I want to invite you to do as your kind of the action for today is to watch, like even overnight, between now and when we meet tomorrow, watch for behaviors that you do or don't do that creates evidence for this belief that you kind of have about yourself and your way of being in life, right? Because once you can see that, that's where you can start to break the patterns. Right? So just a little exercise is not right, it's not wrong. If you get it, you get it. If you don't, you don't. Nothing's going to happen. But you can start watching for, yes, we created some meaning about something based on a whole bunch of stuff that's happened in our life. But then the way our psychology works, we actually then generate behaviors that reinforce that. Okay. And this is the first step to being able to identify hidden barriers, and then you can go through the process of breaking through them and breaking free them and putting in the structures, the habits, and the ways of being to support sustaining them, right? So all this work that's out there about just create an affirmation and you can change who you are, they work on a certain level, but they generally don't work long time, not for sustainability, right? Because you haven't developed a new way of being to support it. So that's what we're going to be doing. Those of you who continue working with me, this is what we're doing. We're putting together this holistic, integrated approach. So we're not only identifying a clearer vision that's more expanded than from our kind of limited self-concept, and identifying who we need to be able to step into that vision, and doing the work to identify the barrier, the key barrier that's blocking us, but then creating a new story and then creating all the skills and the tools and the habits to be able to make that a way of being. So it's just a system, right? And it's a container, and we can go from being the caterpillar to the butterfly. Right? So I'm going to just bring up the PowerPoint just to kind of bring conclusion to this little part. So I talked all about this stuff, and we did this. So I do want to close with a little exercise, and this is a good exercise to get out of our head, this limited concepts of ourselves for the moment, and calm the nervous system down. Because when we do this work, it does kind of cause us to be frazzled, but then we can calm the nervous system down. So we're going to work with the vagal nerve, which is a nerve that runs from the cranial all the way down to the gut. It's the gut-brain connection. It connects to every organ in the body and every nerve in your nervous system. And one place you can connect to it is from the face. And so very simply, very lightly, we're going to start creating little circles right here in the third eye area between the eyebrows, just very lightly. Very lightly. And then start to draw out to the temples. So just right over the eyebrows to the temples. And just breathe normally, but make sure you are breathing. And coming back to the center and going over the eyebrows again. We'll do this 3 times in little circles at the temples. And once again, from the center, all the way out. Good. Come back to the center And this time, draw down the sides of the nose to underneath the eyes, and then draw 3 little circles, just very gently. It's not like a massage. It's just a light touch on the skin. And again, from between the eyebrows, down along the edges of the nose, underneath the eyes. Once again. So the vagus nerve it's very like prevalent to the skin, close to the skin in the face. And then take the fingers and trace them along the outside of the eye back to the temple. And then come back to the center, down the nose, under the eye, through a few little circles, and out to the temples again. And one more time with this pattern, from the center of the forehead, down the sides of the nose, under the eyes, out to the temples. And then coming over to your ear and starting at the top of the ear, and then just gently massage all the way from the top down to the earlobe. And the same thing, let's do that 3 times. And once more. 3 times. And then place your fingers inside your ear and just kind of trace from the top to the bottom. Just from the top to the bottom. And then take a hold of the little cartilage area. I don't know what it's called. And just kind of massage it gently. And then bring your hands down. And just take a moment to breathe and just notice how that made you feel. It's very soothing, right? It's a nice stress reliever to do for the nervous system. So, our homework for our prize for today is to kind of just noticing kind of what you've already done. You know, the limited self-concept that you have, one of them. And you can see whether you feel like you fall more into the shame, into the aloneness, or into the lack, or all 3. And notice one way that it does impact you. Some of you have already spoken about that. And then the last piece is to come up with a little power statement that you can use. So this can be your affirmation. Okay? And you can just post that, right? So it can be as simple as saying, shame, it impacts me in that I don't let my family see what I eat, but I go raid the fridge after they go to bed. And then your power statement can be, I am sexy regardless of what I eat, right? So it can be anything. So I'm going to be really intrigued to see what's there. So our prize, so let's see. Who is our winner for today?
Jennifer. She gets a coaching
Oh,
session with you.
Jennifer. Oh, Jennifer, very
Thank
good.
you.
So you get an actual nutrition coaching session this time. So very good. Congratulations. Ding, 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 ding. And then
Thank you.
tomorrow we'll announce the grand prize winner at the end of tomorrow. So come tomorrow, we're going to pull it all together. We've got one more piece on the path to discuss. And we will kind of do it in a collaborative manner like this, probably just a little bit of teaching, a little collaborative manner. And then we'll announce that. And then the final thing for tonight, we did the winner. We kind of did the recap. Is there is going to be another webinar. It will be more like, if the topic of it is the untold secrets of ageless health and vitality. And I will be talking more about the physiology and why it is that what we think are conditions that are just attributable to our age is really not that way. And how we can really make I think, a huge stake towards staying youthful and vital and flexible and vibrant and radiant and sexy, regardless of our age, right? So we're going to have a talk on Tuesday, the 4th. And with that, we are done. Let's do our closing, putting our right hand on our heart and our left hand on top. And I'm just going to read our circle of women as our closing for today to remind us that a sacred circle of women may be the most powerful force known to humanity. If you have one, embrace it. If you need one, seek it. If you find one, for the love of all that is good and holy, dive in, hold on, love it up, get naked, let them see you, let them hold you, let your reluctant tears fall, let yourself rise fierce and love gentle. You will be changed. The very fabric of your being will be altered by this, if you allow it. So please, please allow it. By Jeanette LeBlanc, Circle of Women. So thank you, everybody. Thank yourselves. Acknowledge each other. You've been a fabulous, fabulous group to work with this week. I'm getting a little sad that tomorrow's the last day of the challenge. Till the next time. Paula's claimed that this is an annual event now, so I have to make it an annual event. But have a good night. Remember, you do have free gift sessions this week. So if you've not claimed yours and you would like to have a conversation with me, please do that. And I will extend it into Monday because there may not be a lot of space on there for tomorrow. And other than that, good night. We will talk again tomorrow.